Hello and welcome to FEMTECH Live Lounge, a monthly discussion that celebrates the intersection of technology and the AI industry. This series is presented by Virtual Patent Gateway. Our guest interviewer today is Deepa Tharmaraj. Deepa has 25 plus years of commercial and corporate law experience in tech in various capacities and countries, in FTSE 100, Fortune 500, and now a NASDAQ listed company. Her career has largely been driven by combining purpose, passion, and principles, which has led her to lead a global workplace movement focused on cultural inclusion with 10,000 plus members in the Fortune 500 company, and founded a not-for-profit for women's empowerment called Women Life Leadership, to facilitate conversations and connections on faith and leadership for women everywhere. Deepa is joined by Alyssa Golay, a senior associate in the Privacy and Cybersecurity practice of Hogan Lovells. And with that, I'll pass it over to Deepa.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you very much again, Caitlin and Ashley, and also VPG for this opportunity to share on the topic that we're going to discuss today with my dear esteemed peer here today, Alyssa. And Alyssa, I mean, prior to Hogan Lovells, you were an in-house privacy counsel at Apple, and you advise clients on legal, regulatory, compliance, and policy matters on a global scale, primarily involving cutting-edge technology and sensitive information, including AI, digital health, and biometric data. Alyssa also works closely with leading providers of generative AI tools and routinely advises on the evolving regulatory regime for AI. Her practice spans investigations, product counseling, advocacy, and transactional matters, providing clients with strategic, forward-thinking advice, whether they are responding to a regulatory inquiry or incident, developing new products, establishing a governance program, or improving existing operations to comply with the dynamic legal landscape. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you so much, Deepa. Appreciate the introduction and opportunity to be here and talk with you today.
Absolutely. So, Alyssa, I mean, today, when we first started, we were saying that as much as this session today is about artificial intelligence, what we're also looking to do is really face our fears in a way. And so, before we give away the entire, spiel that we have for today's session, do you want to give us a brief background on, AI itself? Some of the frequently asked questions that you tend to get asked in the AI space.
Sure. So AI is artificial intelligence is a term that actually applies to a bunch of different technologies. It's different than kind of traditional computing where we had programmers who let out specific rules and had kind of these computers and technologies follow specific paths and rules to produce certain outcomes. Instead, now it's more, it involves a lot more training and providing guardrails for these technologies to then kind of train themselves to some extent to produce certain outcomes or look for various patterns. There's a number of different types of AI technologies. I think some of the most common recently have been generative AI. So think ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, Llama, those types of models. And so those primarily work right by having trained on large amounts of data. They impacted various weights within these algorithms, looking for patterns or seeking to provide kind of the next most likely word that would be produced in a sentence in response to a certain input. So that input would be kind of your question of, tell me a story. And that input would get fed into the model. Then based off of its trainings and weights, it would produce an outcome saying, once upon a time, there lived a girl in the woods or something to that effect.
Yeah. And I suppose what has happened, in fact, a few months ago, we had a summit and one of our panels talked about some of the fears that women had in terms of AI replacing their jobs. And so let's talk about the types of tasks that can be done by AI and the jobs that may be taken away by AI in the most simplistic sense. What is your experience in that space?
So there has been a lot of kind of hysteria or concern about the use of AI. I think it kind of falls on a spectrum, as you and I have talked about before, right? Of
Mhm.
some who think, "Oh my goodness, AI is going to take away all of these jobs," and then on the other end, there are folks who are more in the camp of, "Oh, it's going to create all of these amazing opportunities and it's really going to save humanity." And I think you and I kind of fall in the middle, right? If there will be some opportunities, and yes, there will be some kind of loss of jobs. But that's the case of kind of any new big technology revolution, right? From the cotton gin to the printing press to manufacturing opportunities and computers. We've seen kind of the ebbs and flows of different jobs that come into being from these new technologies, but also that are lost. And similar to those prior technologies, the jobs that are likely to be kind of taken away first tend to be some of the lower skilled jobs. So this would be kind of like data entry, telemarketing, cashiers, certain types of research analysts, things that could benefit from tools that are trained and designed to look for patterns or to, enter specific types of data and conduct those types of routine or kind of fairly easy to replicate, more simple tasks. On the other hand, right, we are going to be able to create some new opportunities based on this technology, including learning how to create those prompts or further train the technologies themselves, which I think we'll talk to a bit later. But is that kind of similar to what you've been hearing on your end as well in your discussions with women about the use of AI?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, even when we look at our own roles in the legal field, there are certain functions that have been taken over, that can be replaced with automation and digitalization. And when we look at whether it's a simple exercise of automating our, policies, for example, um, if they are automated with little rule-based chatbots, that in itself is a piece of work where previously lawyers would be asked, okay, what do you think about this little sentence in a policy, let's say anti-slavery policy or anti-bribery policy. But today, with rule-based chatbots, whether it's got machine learning underneath, whether it's interactive or not, it's a chatbot that can actually answer the questions without having to come to legal to answer that question. So I think in a way, a lot of the roles out there are being augmented, and which is something we're going to discuss in a little bit, um, by AI and also machine learning. And in fact, as you said, there are some roles, even some of the more junior project management roles, which can be um, automated in some sense, or where you can actually use AI tools in order to take down the minutes, for example. I mean, technology has moved on so fast that there are certain, video conferencing tools whereby you have a meeting, it's recorded, and it automatically transcribes the minutes. So you don't necessarily have to take down the minutes yourself. That's
Mhm.
been done for you. So I think there are lots of, and again, that's what we're trying to do here, which is really understanding the benefits that AI technology can bring into our own professions, um, and really understanding that we should be looking at it from a way that it positively impacts our career and our job, as opposed to something that is actually going to take away from our growth and development.
That's very true. Those types of transcription services or summarization tools have gotten so much better, even in just the past few years, and it really has the opportunity to save people so much more time, and kind of take away some of those tasks that may not have required as much thought to conduct, and so it can save time and energy for people in the legal field or others on teams to focus on kind of some of the higher level or more strategic types of tasks that they may not otherwise be able to do because they'd be focused on, oh, I got to get these notes out promptly after the meeting for the partners or the more senior folks on the call. And here they can relax a bit more and focus on more what's happening in the
Yeah.
meeting and how they can
Mhm.
contribute to the discussion, knowing that those kind of more menial tasks or more kind of rote activities are covered by the chatbot or technology.
Absolutely. Now, how do you think we can get ahead? So let's say um, I am I'm an executive assistant in a large law firm, or I'm a project manager, or I am a nurse, or even a teacher. How do I get ahead so that I'm actually augmenting my role with AI as opposed to being fearful and just saying, I'm a dinosaur in this space. I cannot, uh, I cannot embrace this. So maybe there is a difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset here as well.
Very much so. It really does have to do with your mindset and kind of how you're approaching the technology. And so it can be helpful to have more of a curious approach to this new technology, right? To try to explore and figure out which tools you can use, or which are helpful to you. And so that can take the form of, talking with your coworkers, seeing if they've found any tool that they particularly like, making sure you check with the legal compliance or regulatory groups to see, hey, are there tools that have already been approved that we're able to use? Are there any guardrails that I should be aware of for using a particular tool? Since there are some concerns about using certain tools or inputting certain data that you'll want to be mindful of as well. But that shouldn't stop folks from trying to explore the tools or seeing what's out there. There's a lot of conversations happening at organizations trying to identify what are the most useful tools, that are appropriate in our environment, and they're often looking for employees who will, test out the
Well,
tool or who want to talk about use cases or even just talk about, what are the things that they're struggling with that they could appreciate, and would appreciate some help on. And then those who have more familiarity with the tool can figure out, hey, this might be a tool that's useful for them. This analytics platform might save them time on these types of activities. And so it really is kind of changing that mindset from being scared or skeptical of the particular tools, but looking for opportunities of, hey, how can it make my life easier by taking away this kind of more menial task that I don't enjoy as much, or taking something that might take more time and helping to streamline or otherwise um, expedite that process.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the buzzword that you used, the key word there was curiosity. And with curiosity comes the fact that you are open to learning.
Mhm.
And therefore, as an individual who owns her career, it's important for them to really take that action. So the call to action here is own your career and really start to explore and experiment tools that are available in order to help us make our certain tasks in our day-to-day responsibility a lot easier, in order to improve our really work quality as well using these tools. In fact, when I was doing some research for this, for our discussion today, I came across an AI tool. I'm not going to mention the name because we're not doing any product placement here. But it also does AI coaching. So, career coaching, which means that you can actually put down details about your career so far. And then what it does is say, okay, 1, 3, 5 years, what this could look like 1 to 5 years time from now. So as opposed to going to an individual human coach, you could actually use this tool in order to try and figure out what are my career options in the future, things that we wouldn't have thought about. So I thought, hey presto, that's an amazing tool.
Very cool. Yeah, it's like that's kind of a perfect example of how AI can enhance your life of you may not have the resources, or the time to go find a career coach, have a whole conversation with them, wait and get that advice, but here you could, you may have 20 minutes where you can go check
Yeah,
out this AI tool, get some guidance, and as long as you're kind of approaching it with the, okay, I recognize this as a tool, it's not, may not have the 50 plus years of experience of someone or have all of that insight, but it still may give a very helpful and productive output, or at least some guardrails for you to start with, and then think about how you can further tailor it, based on what you know about yourself and what you would like to see in the next few years. But that's an excellent example of the types of tools that are out there and how it can benefit a wider audience.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, Lisa, what do you think about the fact that AI is, people say AI is for techies. But you and I know AI isn't limited for people with technical roles. In fact, it's so interdisciplinary that we need people from all different backgrounds in order to build a technology, build a solution. What are your thoughts on that?
That's so very true. It's even as someone advising on the product counseling side, I don't have a tech background. I have a humanities background. Many of the people I work with are in a similar boat, and it's important to remember that, right? You technical folks are helping to develop the code and build the algorithms and kind of do technical pieces of that. But you also need those who are outside of the technical space to provide input and insight into the ethical considerations, for example,
Mhm.
of the particular uses and training and processes related to an AI. You need really good writers and creative thinkers to help gather the data that can be trained on this, or to review the outputs of, generative AI, for example, to say, hey, is this good? Is this accurate? Is this, unbiased? Is it being thoughtful and going to be a value add to society? You also need kind of broader problem solvers, or those who focus on risks more generally, or are aware of what's happening in society, to help develop guardrails that provide a structure for companies, or use cases of AI to say, hey, we probably shouldn't use it in this scenario, or can kind of catastrophize and think, oh, this is worst case scenario, so what are the steps we can put in place to help prevent negative outcomes from occurring. And then kind of there's broader again, non-technical aspects involved in like the leadership or project management roles related to the development of these tools. So while you may have the techies focused on building the
The
specific
code and
components
the
of a tool or
algorithm.
model, exactly,
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
a whole wealth of opportunities and team members who need to focus on other aspects related to providing, supporting, and continuing to monitor and audit these tools once they are, released into the world, and then being picked up by folks.
Absolutely. And in fact, again, when you look at it from a different angle, it's about diversity of perspectives and diversity of thoughts that you need when you're building, because of the ethical implications as well.
Exactly.
And
And that's
without,
why, oh,
yeah,
sorry. I think
sorry.
it's kind of similar to our prior conversations we've had, which
Mhm.
which I'd love for you to speak more on, which is about kind of the benefits that women in particularly, and kind of those from a diverse background, can bring to these technologies as they're developing and emerging, especially on kind of the guardrails front, because we do have a tendency to bring a different perspective or different priorities and considerations when we're evaluating that. Have you kind of are there any points that you'd like to highlight about kind of how women in particular can help enhance this technology or contribute to the development and use of these tools?
Yes, I'm trying to recall that conversation, and in my mind, what comes to my mind is actually the fact that, from a diversity perspective, when you bring together people of different cultures, people of um, different background, the way in which you are leaning in on the strength that individuals bring into that technology solution. In fact, when companies are building AI solutions, there is a risk assessment that you have to do, and that risk assessment isn't limited to the thoughts and ideas from the coders, from the engineers, from the technical folks, but instead, as you said, from the entire community who has been involved in providing that input into that solution. So everyone who is involved in building that solution is key in providing the input in order to build the risk profile, especially when you think about the EU AI Act as well, because that there is a traffic light system there, which means that, in a way, the company has to ascertain whether it's a high risk, medium risk, or a low risk technology solution. And so diversity of perspectives is key in building any of these solutions in the AI space. Yeah. And coming back to um, individuals who are, so we've talked about the fact that you don't have to be a techie in order to start a career in AI. But at the same time, there are, fresh graduates or new graduates, or those who are still in university, who are thinking about okay, how do I go into, how do I start a career in AI? And I think there are lots of opportunities in the marketplace for those who are looking to train themselves as whether it's data scientists, AI ethics, AI strategy, um, and also be able to. Um, and one of the things that we're looking to do is actually share a link which provides different guidance. There are lots of resources out there, but I think we came across one that has got lots of different ideas about for those who are exploring careers in the AI space.
Very true.
And
I think
yeah,
it was so helpful of you to share that as well, that kind of a link with different trainings that folks can take or different skills that they could develop. I think there's a bunch of free resources in there as well, to help those new graduates and others who might be looking to, for example, pivot from, a career that they think may become obsolete from an AI technology, or kind of transition more into this space because they're interested in it, or they, we've changed their mindset and they're no longer skeptical but are curious, about the technology, and so want to learn more in kind of a more approachable setting. But yeah, thank you so again for flagging that,
yeah,
and sharing that link.
no worries. And therefore, we're going to share it with our participants, our audience as well. There are two key links. One is that, and another one is basically links to all the different short courses you can do in the AI space. So if you're looking to retrain, we found some useful guidance, and we'll share that with you as well. And next, from a regulatory or privacy space, I know we also previously talked about the fact that one of the big concerns we have in the AI space, of course, is biasness in the data sets or the repository of data. And you've also touched upon that today, which is around the guardrails, which is key in any AI solutions. How do we, and again, that is an area that we want to, and again, companies have got their value system in terms of any AI solutions have to meet these AI ethical principles. What are you seeing in that space with the companies and clients that you advise? Are companies are aligning themselves to those AI principles that they have put in place to ensure that these technologies that are rolled out to individuals like you and me who use them, are they, are you seeing there is some form of discipline in that space?
We are seeing organizations develop these principles internally, or look to a number of the regulatory requirements that are coming out. So, in addition to kind of developing their own, companies are looking out at what the legislators are doing. So, you mentioned the EU AI Act in particular. We've seen similar initiatives at the state and federal level. On the U.S. side, the U.S. is a bit slower, so I don't anticipate we're going to get anything quite as quickly as the Europeans. But in South America and Asia, the governments there are also looking to implement similar requirements. These frameworks are very different, and again, kind of some of them are very principles based, others are risk based, like in the UK and EU, where they're focused more on high risk systems. That's what we're seeing in Colorado. But common threads throughout all of them are the need to address, bias or potential discrimination, based on the outputs of these tools, particularly in circumstances that are going to have legal or significant impact on individuals. And so, because in part because the regulators are focused on this, companies are very focused on this as well, because they see, the bellwether that this is where the laws are going. This is what they're going to be forced to do from a kind of a legal and regulatory perspective. But also, I think these organizations are actually, good internally. They have a lot of really good people working there who want to do the right thing, who want to be thoughtful about what they're developing, and how these tools may impact the world. So it goes back to kind of that community of folks who are involved in the development, and continuing growth of these technologies, where they are looking, to see where they can adjust the guardrails or the training data or the use cases, to help prevent these technologies from creating harmful or biased outputs. And a key component of that to help kind of enforce those principles and make sure that they're being abided by is implementing appropriate feedback mechanisms, right? Because you need
Mhm.
users and others at the organization to be able to say, hey, I see an issue, I see some, potential bias here. Who can I talk to? How can I raise this? What can we do to fix this? And so we're seeing an increase in not only developing the principles themselves, but of the governance processes, including those key feedback loops to make sure that we're not just saying we have to do this, but there are concrete steps and actions that can be taken to make sure that we're identifying those issues quickly and then addressing them and mitigating them to the extent we can to help make sure that the technologies can be used in a safe and appropriate manner. So that's been kind of a heartening thing working with on the company side of seeing, folks wanting to do the right thing and being very thoughtful and creative in how they can address these types of concerns.
Mhm. Thanks a lot, Alyssa. I mean, now that we're wrapping up, do you have any final words? Any call to action on your side?
Uh, I think one important note that maybe I should have covered at the top is just a reminder that this is, all for educational purposes. We're not intending to provide any sort of legal advice here, and these views are just kind of represent our own and not necessarily that of our organizations. But again, for in terms of key takeaways and reminders for our audience, I think it is, be curious. Try to avoid being scared and wary of these technologies. It can be helpful to be skeptical of them, but it's also important to be curious and to do what you can to see how they can make your life better or improve your work environment and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. What about
Absolutely.
you, Deepa? What
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
key nuggets would you like to leave us with?
yes. I would also add to everything that you've said and if you are at a point in life where you think retraining might be good, go ahead and pick up some new courses and retrain. So if you're looking to pick up new roles within the AI space, it's never too late. But at the same time, be curious, as you said, like in the existing profession or roles that you're in, see how we can use AI to augment our career and make our lives and be experimental. Try. There are lots of free trials out there, but I will always caution everyone as well that whatever you do at a workplace is to align with the policies. Especially, there must be Gen AI policies at workplace. Whatever policies there are in place in companies, be experimental, but align yourself with the workplace policies as well. And at the same time, I also want to say a big thank you to FEMTECH and to VPG. Thank you once again for giving us a platform to talk about some of the soft issues that we see on the AI side. As we said, this is not about the technology as such. The conversation was really around how do we own our career and really move forward so that we can equip ourselves for the bigger and better technology that will come to assist us and equip us in everything that we do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alyssa.